Hello and welcome to another World of Warplanes video with me, Sir 10 Death. Quite recently I have reviewed a couple of Tier 4 multi-role fighters from the tech trees. Specifically the Russian I-16 late model and the British Hurricane 1. And today we're taking a look at another multi-role fighter from the same tier, one of two American ones. This is the Republic P-43 Lancer. And as ever, we'll be looking at some gameplay footage and considering what's good about this plane and maybe what's not so good, and how it compares to those other ones to maybe help you to decide which of the tech trees you might want to push on down and do some research of and some gameplay of. So we're going to jump into a battle here and have a chat about the plane as we go along. I did just say there it's one of two American ones. There's also the F2A Buffalo, which I haven't done a video review of yet, but it's on my list to do in the quite near future, and I will try and get that under wraps quite soon. I have to say at the moment I'm quite busy with work and family things, which is why there's been a 4-day gap between this video and my previous one. I am trying to get at least 2 or 3 out a week where possible, but every now and then things do just bottleneck for me a little bit, but please do stay tuned and stay subscribed, and I will keep the videos coming as best I can. So off we go then into battle here, and we'll start having a chat about this aircraft then. So let's talk about its hit points first. Well, when it's stock, when you first get it, it's got 200, which is quite favourable. At tier 4, that's perfectly manageable, and when upgraded it goes up to 220, which is even better. Nothing to complain about there. Manoeuvrability rating on paper is 58. Now 58 is a bit on the low side. It's not terrible, but most multi-roles tend to often be into the mid-60s, and obviously light fighters go right up into the 80s and 90s. So this is a little bit more sluggish in the air than maybe some others, and I have to say it's a little bit noticeable, not massively so. It doesn't hugely affect gameplay, but you can sometimes feel that turning time and the shifting from target to target is a little bit more challenging. I'm just going to work here and starting to shoot down some of these defence aircraft to get a feel for the plane. So, talking about that turn time then, when it's stock it has an 11.4 second turn time, which is quite slow. Most of the multi-roles will tend to be near 10 or 10.5 seconds, so it's around about a second slower than the comparable planes from other tech trees. When you upgrade the engine and the airframe, that pulls down to 11.1 seconds, but that's still a little bit slower than some others. So worth noting here that this is obviously it's not a light fighter, but it's certainly not something you want to get into out and out dogfights with other aircraft, because the majority of them, with the exception of things like heavy fighters and the likes, will be able to outturn you. I pushed my luck a bit here and nearly went a little too close to the ground there, just getting onto this ground aircraft. The suggested fighting altitude of this aircraft is near 1,000 meters. I'm way below that at the moment, right down here now, ground level, just mopping up this attack aircraft, but it normally fights around 1,000 meters best of all. It is worth noting this is the fastest of the tier 4 multi-role fighters, from the tech trees anyway. Even as stock it goes around just under 300 kilometers per hour, and when the engines are upgraded that's about 310, 320 thereabout. Most of the other ones are around 260 to 280, so it's a bit quicker getting from target to target. When stock it has two 12.7mm guns, which is not terrible, it's not absolutely awful, but it's not great either. It is upgradable to 4 12.7mm, which makes it far more workable. In my opinion, those types of guns have certain advantages, certain disadvantages. Some other aircraft, like an upgraded I-16L or an upgraded Hurricane 1, can have cannons. Cannons can output vast amounts of damage very quickly, but the trade-off is they overheat very quickly as well. Guns like these, the 12.7s, don't overheat particularly fast. If you notice that little box in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen there, as I'm doing a bit of shooting, I'll just try and get some targets here and start shooting. You'll see it doesn't overheat particularly fast. I've actually got somebody on the tail right now. I have to say this footage I actually recorded a couple of weeks ago, and it's not a stunningly good game. I just needed to get a video out this week really, and I haven't really had time to play very much. Yeah, so the guns they're quite good, and they don't overheat particularly fast, but they don't have the raw damage output of some of the cannons on some other models. Outboard ordnance, it can also carry bombs, of course. It can carry no bombs, should you choose to carry none. It can carry two 100-pound bombs, which don't do a huge amount. It also can carry two 250-pound bombs, which are really quite nice. Each one of those It's capable of doing about 2,200 damage over a 60-meter radius on the ground, so you can single-handedly sort of take down maybe a medium structure or a couple of light structures with your bombs. Naturally, multi-role bombs, I always use them very much as support play. I don't even think I use them in this game. If I happen to be passing by something, I'll drop them. If not, I'm not going to go looking for those targets. And yeah, the other thing you'll find about multi-rolls, when you drop the bombs, they have a ridiculously long reload time, usually around about sort of 80 or 90 seconds, about a minute and a half, so it's a long time to get those bombs usable again. So, feeling of this aircraft is it's not terrible, it's not bad, but it also isn't particularly good at anything. It doesn't feel like there's any one thing that shines about it. Now, here's a good example. I've got someone on my tail here, and I really can do nothing about this. I'm out of the game again. I'm knocked out for the second time because of that poor maneuverability, because I can't outturn somebody. Once he had decided that I was his chosen target, I could do very little to get away from that situation. So, it's not a terrible aircraft, but I have to be honest, making comparisons, it's not great either. I did say I'd make some comparisons. I've mentioned the ones you can compare it to. I did a review of the I-16L about 2 weeks ago, and I will put a link to that in my video right now. And the I-16L can carry cannons when they're upgraded, and can therefore be much more devastating. On the other hand, the I-16L also has significantly less hit points, and it's actually much more like a fighter, a light fighter, because it's a very, very quick maneuverable thing. So it's tough to compare them. This is probably better compared to the Hurricane 1, because they're quite similar by way of maneuverability. The Hurricane 1's a little bit more slick in the turn, but not massively so. The Hurricane 1 comes with 8.303 guns as stock, and it upgrades, if you wanted to 20mm cannons, and it just has to be said that the Hurricane 1 is just a much, much better multi-role aircraft at Tier 4. If you're looking for a Tier 4 multi-role, unless you are feeling the overwhelming desire to go down the route of the American ones, the Hurricane 1 is pretty much a better plane in every single respect. This has the worst turn time of, as I said earlier, about 11.1 seconds, even when upgraded, it's the worst turn time. The only advantage this really has is the quickest of the bunch, but only by maybe about 20 kilometers per hour, so it's not a massive difference. This game's kind of winding to a close now. I haven't done phenomenally well. I'm just trying to showcase what this can do. I have pulled in nearly 7,000 combat points, which is okay. It's not a bad game. I like to think of myself, if I can get over the 10,000 or maybe 12,000, that's more of what I would consider a good game. This is a very average game at best, but look how slow it is to get turned round. If you're quite fortunate like this and you can get on the tail of somebody who's actually looking the other way and not paying attention, you can do a lot of damage. And here we go, I've got somebody who's decided to target me on my tail again, and I am struggling. This is the real drawback of this plane. You are not going to outturn anybody. When somebody focuses you, that's the end of it. So I'm going to cut towards the end of the game now because I can't respawn because of this squall line. We did actually win the game. I did finish second overall with a little over 8,500 combat points. The usual kind of group of medals that you get for a bit of early gameplay, and it's okay. It's not a bad plane. It's just not great either. Credit-wise, it pulled in, what, 57,000 credits. Tier 4 non-premium, that's not terrible, but it's okay. Would I recommend it? Well, if you're desperate to have an American one, fair enough, give it a try. If you really just want a Tier 4 multi-role, avoid it. Probably go for the Hurricane 1 or the I-16L. I would say are both better planes than this, in my opinion. But it is, of course, my opinion, and it's not desperately hard to get to Tier 4 and try things out for yourself should you want to. As ever, thanks very much for watching. Cheers now. Goodbye.